The story begins in a futuristic, high-tech alien academy located on the edge of a distant galaxy. The academy is a place where beings from various planets, species, and civilizations gather to learn about the universe. Among the students is Zira, a young and intelligent alien from a proud, technologically advanced race. Zira has always believed that her species is the most superior, the most powerful of all. They have conquered galaxies, developed technologies that are far beyond anything humans could imagine, and have evolved into the pinnacle of civilization. But Zira's view of the universe is about to change forever. One bright morning, Zira enters her lecture hall, an enormous room filled with advanced holoscreens and floating data panels. The walls are adorned with glowing maps of star systems, and the floor pulses with soft light, giving the entire room an otherworldly, futuristic feel. Today's lecture is about Earth, the so-called primitive planet that has sparked the curiosity of many alien civilizations. The students are seated in their pods, their eyes fixed on the floating hologram in front of them. The instructor for today's class is Professor Gabriel, a human who has been assigned to teach about the history of Earth and its role in galactic events. Zira watches him skeptically from her seat, her eyes narrowing slightly. How could a human, one of the most primitive species in the galaxy, possibly know anything worth learning? Professor Gabriel begins speaking in a calm, measured tone. Today, we are going to discuss a critical event in galactic history, he says, one that you may find difficult to believe. He pauses, allowing the class to absorb his words. It's the story of how one human saved an entire galaxy. Zira scoffs inwardly. She had heard rumors about humans and their tales of heroism, but she dismissed them as mere exaggerations or fables. The idea that a human, physically weaker and technologically inferior compared to the advanced alien civilizations, could have done something so grand was absurd to her. She leans back in her seat, rolling her eyes slightly, waiting for what she assumes will be an entertaining but ultimately meaningless story. Professor Gabriel's voice grows somber. He seems deeply connected to the story he is about to tell. This is not just a story, he says, his eyes scanning the room, looking at each student. This is the true account of how a human soldier, Captain Elias, led a mission that stopped the greatest galactic threat ever to face us. And he did it, alone. Zira frowns, intrigued but still skeptical. She glances around the room at her classmates, who appear to be taking Gabriel's words seriously. There's a quiet tension in the air. Zira's curiosity begins to grow. How could a human, a single human, face down such an overwhelming threat? Gabriel continues. Captain Elias wasn't just a soldier. He was an ordinary man, a man who didn't have the advanced weapons of our species, nor the superpowers of some alien races. He had nothing but his courage, his wit, and his love for his people. And in the end, it was that human spirit, the unbreakable will to protect, that saved us all. Zira is no longer amused. She leans forward in her seat, the flicker of disbelief in her eyes turning into something deeper, a spark of curiosity. Could this possibly be true? How could a human, so outmatched in every way, have managed to do what no one else could? She watches Gabriel, her mind racing with questions. Could it be? She wonders. Could one human have done something so incredible? Professor Gabriel's eyes harden, and his tone shifts. I'm about to show you the truth, he says quietly. This is a classified recording, one that only a few have seen. It was the last effort of humanity to prevent certain destruction. The holographic screen in front of him flickers, showing an image of Earth, the blue planet seemingly vulnerable amidst the endless void of space. What you're about to see is the beginning of the battle that changed everything. Zira's breath catches. The professor's words hang heavy in the air, and she feels a chill run down her spine. She's about to witness something that will shatter everything she's ever believed. The lights in the room dim, and the screen comes to life. Zira's eyes widen as she sees a fleet of massive alien warships, far larger and more advanced than anything Earth could ever dream of, approaching the planet. These ships, draped in shadow, appear to be part of a coordinated attack, their weapons powered up and ready for destruction. The scale of the enemy's forces is staggering. Zira can hardly believe what she's seeing. She had been taught that no species, not even humans, could stand against such overwhelming power. And yet, standing against this threat is a lone human ship. The contrast is almost laughable. The human ship is small, unremarkable, and unshielded compared to the alien armada. But it's not the ship that catches Zira's attention. It's the man inside it. Captain Elias, the human she had only heard of in whispers, is sitting at the helm, his eyes focused on the enemy ahead. The camera shifts to a view from inside the ship, and Zira sees Elias, a man of average height and build, his face weathered but determined. His eyes are filled with resolve, but there's something else there too, something that Zira can't quite place. It's not fear. It's not arrogance. It's the deep, unwavering belief that he is the only one who can save his people. He is the last hope. Zira feels a knot tighten in her stomach. This human, with no powers, no technology to match the alien invaders, is about to face them all alone. How can this be? What could he possibly do to stop the destruction of Earth? Professor Gabriel's voice cuts through her thoughts. What Captain Elias did next was beyond anything we could have imagined. It wasn't the power of his weapons or the size of his fleet. It was his heart, his courage, and his understanding of what it means to fight for everything you love. Zira sits up straighter, her heart racing. She can feel the gravity of the moment in the air. This is not just a story, it's the beginning of a journey, one that will change the course of history. And Zira knows, deep down, that she's about to witness something that will challenge everything she's ever known about the universe, and her place in it. The professor pauses the video for a moment, letting the weight of his words sink in. Zira, he says, his voice serious. This mission was a secret, a last-ditch effort, one that would cost Captain Elias his life. But it was the only way to save the galaxy. Zira's mind is spinning. She has so many questions. What happened next? How did this human accomplish such a feat? What did he sacrifice to stop the galactic destruction? She can't wait to see more, but part of her is scared. If this human truly did what the professor says, then everything she's believed about her species, about their superiority, is about to be turned upside down. Zira doesn't yet know it, but this moment, the moment when she first learns about Captain Elias, will be the moment that changes her life forever. It's the first step on a journey that will take her deep into the heart of humanity's greatest battle, and into her own heart, as she begins to question what it means to be truly powerful. As the video resumes, Zira knows one thing for sure. She will never look at humans the same way again. Zira couldn't shake the words of Professor Gabriel from her mind. A human saved the galaxy. It was absurd, utterly incomprehensible to her. How could one human, no matter how courageous, stand a chance against the powerful alien forces that ruled the galaxy? But there was something about the way Gabriel spoke, the conviction in his eyes, that made Zira question everything she thought she knew. She had to know more. That night, Zira made her decision. She was going to find the truth, even if it meant sneaking into the Academy's restricted archives. The thought of violating the Academy's rules sent a shiver of excitement through her. After all, this was no ordinary story. This was about a human who had somehow managed to turn the tide of war. And Zira, the proud alien who believed her species was supreme, couldn't resist the temptation to uncover the facts for herself. She slipped through the dark, quiet corridors of the Academy, her heart pounding in her chest. The archives were hidden deep within the building, secured by layers of advanced technology and guarded by powerful AIs. But Zira was quick and clever, using her natural ability to manipulate energy fields to slip past the security systems unnoticed. She smiled to herself, proud of her skills. Once inside the archives, Zira's eyes scanned the shelves, filled with holographic data disks and ancient recordings. She quickly found the section labeled Earth. Galactic History, and began scrolling through the titles. Her fingers hesitated as she saw a series of old battle recordings. Her curiosity piqued, and without a second thought, she selected the first recording. The screen in front of her flickered to life, and Zira's breath caught as she saw a massive alien armada looming over Earth. The ships, sleek and imposing, were equipped with advanced cloaking technology and deadly weaponry. They were preparing to attack Earth's outer defense lines, and from the looks of it, they were unstoppable. Zira leaned forward, her eyes fixed on the screen. She had seen battles before, but nothing like this. The alien armada was far more advanced than anything Earth could ever muster. The recording showed Earth's primitive ships, small, outdated, and unshielded, attempting to fight back. Zira felt a surge of pity for them. How could these feeble vessels hope to stand a chance against the alien might? The alien ships cloaked themselves, disappearing from view, and then unleashed a barrage of devastating weapons. The human ships tried to retaliate, but their lasers were weak, their technology far behind that of the invaders. Eye-controlled drones swarmed the battlefield, cutting through Earth's defenses with ease. Zira's mind raced as she watched. The battle was hopeless. The alien forces were overwhelming. The humans were outclassed in every possible way. And yet, they fought on, determined to protect their home. Zira could feel the tension in the air as the battle raged on. The fate of Earth seemed sealed. But then, something unexpected happened. A new figure appeared on the screen, a human, alone, piloting an old-fashioned fighter ship. At first, Zira didn't understand what she was seeing. The human ship was tiny compared to the massive alien warships. It looked like a relic from another time. But it was fast, agile, and unlike anything the aliens had seen before. Zira's eyes widened as she watched the human captain, Elias, take on the alien fleet with a combination of skill, wit, and sheer determination. His ship darted through the sky, evading the alien drones and laser blasts with incredible precision. It was clear that Captain Elias wasn't relying on advanced technology to win. Instead, he was using something far more valuable: human ingenuity. Zira's heart pounded as she witnessed Elias pull off one daring maneuver after another. He weaved his ship in and out of the enemy's fire, using the aliens' own tactics against them. His ship was small, yes, but it was nimble and unpredictable. Zira watched in awe as Elias deployed a series of old-fashioned flares that temporarily blinded the enemy sensors, causing them to lose track of his ship. He was outsmarting them. He was outthinking them. In that moment, Zira felt a flicker of something she couldn't quite place. It was a spark of hope, a glimmer of belief that maybe, just maybe, humanity wasn't as weak as she had always believed. Elias wasn't relying on superior technology. He was relying on the one thing that set humans apart: their ability to adapt, to think outside the box, to keep fighting even when all hope seemed lost. But even with Elias's brilliance, the battle was far from over. As the human forces regrouped, the alien armada began its next wave of attacks. The screen showed a vast fleet of alien ships descending upon Earth's defenses, their weapons primed and ready. The tide of battle seemed to turn in favor of the invaders once more. Zira felt her stomach churn as the scale of destruction became painfully clear. The humans fought valiantly, but they were no match for the sheer numbers and firepower of the alien fleet. The space around Earth was filled with debris, burning ships, and the echoes of explosions. The human ships were being torn apart, one by one. Zira couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness. How could a single human captain, no matter how skilled, stop this overwhelming force? Then, something incredible happened. Captain Elias, with his old-fashioned fighter ship, broke through the alien lines. He had drawn the enemy in, distracting them with his unpredictable movements. And now, he was going straight for the heart of the invasion force. Zira's eyes widened as she watched Elias fly directly into the heart of the alien fleet, his ship dodging blast after blast, coming within inches of destruction. The alien ships locked their weapons on him, but Elias had one final trick up his sleeve. He activated a cloaking device, a small but powerful tool that rendered his ship invisible to the enemy sensors. For a moment, the alien ships were confused. They couldn't find him. It was then that Elias made his move. With a series of calculated shots, he disabled the alien fleet's primary command ship, causing chaos among the invaders. The eye-controlled drones went haywire, and the alien ships began firing on each other, unable to distinguish friend from foe. Elias had disrupted their entire command structure, throwing the invaders into disarray. Zira couldn't believe her eyes. This was the turning point. This was the moment when the human captain, against all odds, turned the tide of battle. The alien armada, once so unstoppable, was now vulnerable. Zira felt a rush of emotions: excitement, awe, and disbelief. How could a human have done this? How could one person, with such limited resources, achieve such a monumental victory? The recording continued to show the humans rallying together, their fighter ships organizing into a final assault against the alien forces. Elias, having completed his mission, was now leading the charge alongside his fellow soldiers. The battle wasn't over yet, but for the first time, it seemed like the humans had a chance. Zira sat back, her mind racing. The battle was far from won, but Elias's actions had shown her something profound. The humans, though outmatched in technology, possessed something far greater: the strength of their spirit, the courage to fight even when the odds were stacked against them. Zira had witnessed something that would change her forever: an underdog story, a testament to the power of human ingenuity and bravery. As the recording ended, Zira stood frozen, her thoughts swirling. She had learned something that night, something that would alter her understanding of the galaxy, of humans, and of herself. Captain Elias had saved Earth, and with that, he had given Zira a new perspective on what true strength really was. And the journey was just beginning. Zira couldn't stop replaying the recordings in her mind. Each clip, each moment from Captain Elias' story, had changed something deep inside her. She had gone into the archives out of sheer curiosity, but what she had uncovered was something far more profound. The courage, the sacrifice, and the deep bonds of humanity had shaken her to her core. She needed to know more, but more importantly, she needed to understand: why did they do it? Why did humans sacrifice so much for others, even for people they didn't know? Zira couldn't grasp it. It made no sense to her. To her, the alien races were stronger, more technologically advanced, and their purpose was clear: to survive and thrive. But humanity, their resources were limited. Their technology was primitive compared to the alien fleets. They were supposed to be the weak ones, the ones who didn't stand a chance. And yet they were fighting not just for survival, but for others, for something greater than themselves. That night, Zira couldn't sleep. The images of the battle, the explosion, and the faces of the soldiers who had given everything for their planet haunted her. She had to go back to the archives. She had to understand what kind of people would sacrifice so much, even when there seemed to be no hope left. As Zira made her way back to the hidden archives, her heart raced. She already knew that what she was about to witness would change her forever. The story wasn't over. There were still crucial moments to uncover. And as she sat down to watch the next part of the recording, she felt a sense of foreboding. This wasn't just a story about war. It was about what it meant to be human. The recording began, showing Captain Elias once again. But this time, his face was grim. The stakes had never been higher. The alien fleet had broken through Earth's defenses, and humanity's last hope rested on a single desperate mission. Captain Elias stood in front of his crew, their faces just as serious as his. They were preparing to launch a weapon that could wipe out the alien fleet, but the cost was clear: no one would survive the blast. The weapon was massive, a last-ditch effort to turn the tide of the war. It was a weapon unlike anything the aliens had ever seen, capable of destroying everything in its path. But it had one devastating flaw: Only one ship could carry the weapon, and its crew would never make it back. Zira's heart sank as she watched the preparations unfold. This was it. This was the moment when humans had made the ultimate sacrifice. She could see the pain in Captain Elia's eyes. He knew that the lives of his crew, of everyone on Earth, rested on this mission. And yet, he showed no fear. He had made his decision. But what hit Zira hardest wasn't the weapon, or even the destruction it promised. It was the resolve in Elia's voice as he gave his orders. He didn't hesitate. He didn't try to find a way out. He had made peace with the fact that there was no coming back. He was going to die for the greater good, and so would his crew. As the crew prepared to leave, Zira was introduced to Bonner, a soldier who was Elia's closest friend. Bonner was one of the few remaining soldiers who hadn't yet lost his hope. He was strong, determined, and loyal to his captain. Bonner and Elias shared a bond that was stronger than blood, a bond forged in the fires of battle. Bonner's final words hit Zira like a punch to the stomach. For Earth, for humanity. We fight, not for ourselves, but for everyone. The simplicity and weight of those words reverberated in Zira's mind. She sat frozen, unable to move. For everyone. What did that even mean? Why would someone fight, someone who was about to face certain death, for people they didn't even know? How could a single person, knowing they would never come home, choose to give their life for others? Zira thought of her own people, the proud alien race she had always believed was superior. They fought for their own survival, for their own glory, for their own future. The idea of sacrificing oneself for strangers was foreign to her. To her people, survival was the highest priority. But here were humans, willing to die not for themselves, but for the future of others. It was unfathomable. As the recording continued, Zira watched as Bonner made his way to his ship. He said goodbye to his comrades, exchanging a brief but meaningful look with Elias. There was no fear in Bonner's eyes, only acceptance. He had made his peace with what was to come. Zira could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her chest. She didn't understand it, but she felt it. The bravery, the honor, the selflessness. She had never seen anything like it. Not in her people, not in any alien race she had encountered. And then, the moment came. Bonner and the rest of the crew boarded their ships, heading straight for the heart of the alien fleet. Zira watched as they engaged the enemy in a desperate last-ditch effort. The explosions were deafening. The destruction was overwhelming. And yet, the humans never faltered. They continued to fight, knowing that they would never make it back. Zira's eyes filled with tears as she watched Bonner's ship take a direct hit, the explosion ripping through the hull and sending the ship spiraling into oblivion. Bonner's final sacrifice had been made. The screen went black for a moment, and Zira felt her heart break. She had never known loss like this. She had never known what it felt like to fight for something greater than herself, to give up everything for a cause. Zira had always believed that strength came from power, from technology, from superiority. But now she realized that strength came from something deeper. It came from the heart. It came from the willingness to fight for something larger than oneself. In that moment, Zira's worldview shattered. The pride she had in her own people felt small, insignificant. She had always seen her race as the pinnacle of intelligence, of strength. But what did that matter if they didn't understand the power of sacrifice? What did it matter if they didn't fight for something greater than themselves? Zira felt a deep pang of guilt as she thought of her people. They had always focused on their own survival, their own advancement. They had never considered the idea of fighting for others. But now, watching the humans give everything for Earth, for humanity, Zira began to question everything. Could she ever be as brave as them? Could she ever understand the kind of sacrifice they had made? The final scenes of the recording showed the catastrophic weapon being detonated. The explosion was enormous, a blinding flash of light that consumed the alien fleet. Earth's survival had come at a terrible cost, but the sacrifice had been worth it. The alien forces were defeated, and humanity was saved. But Zira knew that the victory had come with a heavy price. She sat in silence for a long time, tears streaming down her face. The emotions were too much to bear. She had witnessed something that had changed her forever. The humans had won, not because of their technology, not because of their power, but because they had the courage to fight for others, to fight for the future. And that, Zira realized, was a strength that no alien fleet could ever match. As the screen faded to black, Zira whispered to herself, "For Earth, for humanity." She had learned something that night, a lesson that would stay with her forever. The true strength of a people is not in their power, but in their heart. Zira's eyes were fixed on the screen as the final moments of the battle unfolded before her. She had never imagined that the story of humanity's survival would take such an extraordinary turn. The battle had already seemed like an impossible fight, with humanity's limited resources pitted against an overwhelming, technologically superior alien fleet. Yet every time she thought she had seen the peak of human ingenuity, something more remarkable happened. The footage had shown Ilias and his crew fighting with desperate courage, using everything they had, from their outdated fighter ships to their primitive yet brilliant tactics. But nothing could have prepared her for the climax. Nothing could have prepared her for what she was about to witness, the ultimate act of sacrifice and the raw power of human will. As the camera zoomed in on Captain Ilias, Zira saw the moment she had been waiting for. Elias, determined and resolute, approached the core of Earth's last line of defense. He was preparing to activate a weapon buried deep beneath the planet's surface, a doomsday device that had been hidden for centuries. It was a weapon of unimaginable power, and its activation would destroy not only the alien fleet, but also everything around it. Zira's heart pounded in her chest. Could they really do it? Could humans unleash such a force? She had no idea how this would unfold, but she knew one thing. The world would never be the same after this. Elias stood at the control panel, his hand trembling slightly but unwavering in its purpose. His eyes were focused, not on the device, but on the Earth itself, the planet that had given him everything, the planet he was willing to save at any cost. With a deep breath, he pressed the button. The device activated, sending out a pulse of energy that lit up the sky like 1,000 suns. The Earth itself seemed to tremble as the shockwave began to form. Zira watched in disbelief as the massive shockwave expanded outward, the energy washing over the alien fleet like a tidal wave. The ships, once invincible and unstoppable, were torn apart, disintegrating into nothingness. The weapon had worked. The Earth was saved. Humanity had triumphed against all odds. Zira sat there, stunned. Her mind struggled to process what she had just witnessed. The weapon had been a last resort, a desperate measure, but it had been humanity's final hope. What amazed Zira even more was the fact that Captain Elias had known the consequences of activating the device. He knew that no one would survive the blast. He had made the ultimate sacrifice, and so had his crew. They had given everything to save a planet, a species, and a future they would never live to see. Zira couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and respect for these humans. She had always seen her own species as the epitome of strength and intelligence, but here were humans, using technology that seemed almost primitive compared to the advanced systems of the alien fleet, and yet they had managed to defeat the impossible. The audacity, the sheer courage it took to make such a decision, left her speechless. It was a form of bravery she had never encountered before, one that transcended technology and superiority. But the battle wasn't over yet. As Zira continued to watch the footage, she saw the remnants of Earth's fleet, the few remaining ships that had managed to survive, preparing for one final stand. The alien fleet had been crippled, but there were still some remaining ships, and they weren't about to let humanity off the hook so easily. It was up to the last line of defense. The ships that had somehow survived the initial wave of destruction. Zira watched as the Earth's ships, now relying on advanced eye-assisted drones and cloaking technology, prepared for a battle unlike anything she had seen before. The visual effects were mesmerizing. Orbital bombardments lighting up the sky, beams of energy firing down from the ships above, and the sky itself filled with chaos. The alien drones, now aware of humanity's desperate ploy, launched a counterattack, but the humans were ready. They had made the decision to fight until the very end, no matter the odds. The battle was intense, fast-paced, and deadly. Zira could see the Earth's ships using cloaking technology to sneak past the alien drones, catching them off guard, while the AI-assisted drones launched precise attacks on the enemy. The stakes were higher than ever before, and each move seemed to carry the weight of humanity's survival. The alien drones fought back with ruthless precision, but humanity's ingenuity was shining through in every maneuver. The visuals of the close-quarters combat were stunning. The speed and agility of the human ships, despite their outdated technology, were unmatched. Zira found herself caught up in the excitement of the battle, unable to tear her eyes away from the screen. She had never seen anything like this before. The level of strategy, the teamwork, and the sheer determination of these human soldiers was awe-inspiring. Even when the odds seemed insurmountable, they never gave up. They fought not just for their own survival, but for the survival of everyone they loved and cared for. In one particularly intense moment, a human ship cloaked itself, sneaking up on an alien drone. The drone didn't see it coming, and within seconds, the human ship emerged from its cloak, firing a series of missiles that obliterated the enemy. Zira was stunned. The humans had managed to turn their weaknesses into strengths. They didn't have the most advanced technology, but they made up for it with creativity and determination. Each small victory was a testament to their resolve, and each loss was a reminder of what they were fighting for. As the battle raged on, Zira's feelings shifted. She had come to the archives expecting to learn about the fall of humanity, the story of a weak species fighting a losing battle. But instead, she had witnessed a story of unimaginable strength, sacrifice, and courage. The humans weren't weak. They weren't inferior. They were the underdogs, yes, but they were also the most resilient species in the galaxy. The final scenes showed the last of the alien ships retreating, unable to withstand the human forces. The skies were cleared, the Earth was saved, and humanity had won. But the victory came at a great cost. Elias and his crew were gone, their names forever etched in the history of their people. Zira felt a wave of sadness wash over her as she realized that these humans, who had given everything for their world, would never know the true extent of their legacy. Zira leaned back in her chair, still processing everything she had just witnessed. The battle had been over for hours, but her mind was still racing. The humans had done what no one thought was possible. They had defeated an entire alien fleet with little more than their will to survive, and their unwavering dedication to one another. They had made the impossible possible. Zira couldn't help but admire them now. The humans had won not because of their strength, not because of their advanced technology, but because they had something no one else had: heart. They had fought for their families, their friends, and their future. And in the end, it was that heart that had saved them. As Zira left the archives, her perspective had completely changed. She no longer saw humanity as a weak species, a race that was easy to underestimate. No, now she saw them as equals, as worthy of respect. The humans had proven that true strength didn't come from power or technology. It came from the heart, from the willingness to sacrifice everything for the greater good. The next day, Zira walked to Professor Gabriel's office, her mind still reeling from everything she had witnessed. The battle footage had left her speechless, and even now, she couldn't quite process the gravity of what she had learned. Elias and his crew had given their lives for Earth, using nothing but their raw willpower and ingenuity to fight off an unbeatable alien fleet. She had seen it all, but the true meaning of their sacrifice was still unclear to her. She needed answers. Professor Gabriel greeted her with a nod as she entered his office. She could see the tiredness in his eyes, the exhaustion that came from years of studying the humans' victory. But there was also a spark of wisdom in his expression. It was as if he understood exactly what Zira was going through. "Professor, I watched the recordings," Zira began, her voice filled with a mixture of awe and confusion. "I saw everything. But I don't understand. Elias and his crew, they knew they would die. They were willing to make that sacrifice. Why? Why would they throw their lives away like that?" Professor Gabriel smiled gently, his voice calm but filled with the weight of truth. "Zira, what you saw wasn't just about a weapon. It wasn't just about defeating the alien fleet or saving Earth. Elias and his crew didn't fight for themselves. They fought for something far greater. They fought for each other, for their planet, and for the future of humanity." Zira sat down in front of him, still struggling to understand. But the weapon, wasn't it the only way to save them? The only way to defeat the aliens? Gabriel leaned forward, his eyes intense. Yes, the weapon was necessary, but it wasn't the key to humanity's victory. The key was something far more powerful: the human spirit. The willingness to fight for something greater than themselves, even if it meant making the ultimate sacrifice. Elias understood that. His crew understood that. They were united by a cause, and that unity made them stronger than any alien technology. Zira's mind spun. She had always thought of humans as primitive and weak. To her, they had always seemed like a species on the brink of extinction, struggling to survive in a vast universe full of advanced civilizations. But now, after seeing the battle unfold and hearing Gabriel's words, she realized how wrong she had been. These humans had something that none of the advanced alien species she knew had: a sense of unity, a fierce loyalty to one another, and the ability to make sacrifices for the greater good. She left Professor Gabriel's office in a daze, her thoughts a tangled mess of emotions. As she walked back to her dormitory, she found herself replaying the battle footage in her mind over and over again. The faces of Elias and his crew, the way they had fought together, had given everything for a cause greater than their own survival. It all made sense now. She had underestimated them. But more than that, she had misunderstood them entirely. Back in her dormitory, Zira sat on her bed, staring out of the window at the stars. The images from the battle were still vivid in her mind. Elias's face, determined and resolute as he activated the doomsday device. Bonner's final words: "For Earth, for humanity. We fight, not for ourselves, but for everyone." Those words resonated deeply with her. She had never known a species that could make such a sacrifice. It was almost impossible to comprehend. Tears filled her eyes, but they were not tears of sorrow. No, these were tears of admiration. She had spent so long seeing humans as weak and inferior, but now she saw them as something else, something far more powerful than she could have ever imagined. It wasn't their technology that made them strong. It wasn't their weapons or their advanced ships. It was their willingness to fight for each other, their ability to sacrifice everything for the greater good. That, Zira realized, was the true weapon of humanity. As the tears slowly subsided, Zira felt a profound sense of respect for the humans. She had learned that strength didn't come from technology or might. It came from within. It came from the heart. The humans had proven that in the most spectacular way imaginable. Their unity, their courage, and their selflessness had been the driving force behind their victory. It wasn't the advanced alien fleet they had defeated. It was their own limitations, their own fears, and their own doubts. They had fought not just for survival, but for something much bigger than themselves. Zira felt a strange warmth in her chest as she thought about the human spirit. She had always thought of strength as something physical, something measurable. But now she understood that true strength was emotional, psychological, and even spiritual. It was about the bonds between people, the willingness to stand up for what was right, even when the odds were impossible. The humans had shown her that strength wasn't about being the biggest or the strongest. It was about being the most determined, the most willing to sacrifice. She thought back to her own people. The aliens she had once believed were the superior race. What had they ever sacrificed for others? What had they ever done for the greater good? Zira had always been proud of her species, but now, in the face of what she had witnessed, She couldn't help but question the true meaning of strength. Perhaps her species had the power, the technology, and the resources, but did they have the heart? Did they have the willingness to lay down their lives for a cause greater than themselves? Zira's mind wandered back to Elias's final moments. His crew, all of them, had given their lives for humanity, knowing they would never see the result of their actions. They had done it not for glory or fame, but because they believed in something greater than themselves. The idea of sacrificing everything for the future was a concept that Zira couldn't fully understand until now. The more Zira thought about it, the more she realized that she had a lot to learn. She had spent so much of her life looking down on humanity, dismissing them as weak and insignificant. But now she saw them as a species capable of doing what others could not, to fight with their hearts, to make the ultimate sacrifice for those they loved, even if it meant their own destruction. The revelations from the past few days had changed her forever. She no longer viewed humanity with disdain or contempt. Instead, she felt something that was unfamiliar to her: respect. She admired their ability to come together in the face of adversity, to fight not just for their own survival, but for the survival of others. The human spirit, she now understood, was the greatest weapon in the galaxy. It was what had won them the battle against the alien fleet, and it was what would continue to drive them forward into the future. As Zira sat there, reflecting on everything she had learned, she felt a sense of peace settle over her. She had come to Earth expecting to learn about its failures, its weaknesses, and its eventual downfall. But what she had found instead was something far more profound. A species that had risen above its limitations, that had fought with everything it had, and had emerged victorious. The humans had proved that they were more than just survivors. They were a force to be reckoned with. Zira wiped away the last of her tears, feeling a new sense of purpose inside her. She had learned the true meaning of strength, and it wasn't found in weapons or technology. It was found in the heart. And now she would carry that lesson with her for the rest of her life. Zira stood in the quiet of her dormitory, the soft hum of the lights the only sound breaking the silence. The images of the battle, the bravery of Captain Elias, and the sacrifice of his crew were still fresh in her mind. She had never imagined she would be so moved by the story of a species she had once thought of as weak and primitive. But now, everything had changed. Elias and his crew had given their lives, not for fame or glory, but for something far greater: the survival of their planet and the future of all humanity. As she sat there, staring out into the vast expanse of space, Zira's thoughts swirled with new understanding. The human she had dismissed as inferior had shown her a strength beyond anything she had ever seen. It wasn't their advanced technology or weapons that had won the battle against the aliens. It was their spirit, their unwavering determination to fight for something greater than themselves. And in that fight, they had proven that even the most unlikely underdog could rise to greatness when united by a cause they believed in. Zira had always thought her people were superior. They were technologically advanced, with fleets of ships, cloaking devices, and artificial intelligence that outclassed anything Earth had ever seen. But after watching the battle footage and learning about the sacrifice of Elias and his crew, she realized how wrong she had been. Her species may have had superior technology, but they lacked what humanity possessed: a deep sense of unity, loyalty, and the willingness to give everything for the greater good. The more she reflected on the footage, the more she understood. The weapon, the doomsday device that had saved Earth, wasn't just about destroying the alien fleet. It was about the courage to make the ultimate sacrifice. Elias had known that activating the weapon would mean his death, as well as the death of everyone else involved in the mission. But he had done it anyway, because it was the only way to protect the people he loved, to give humanity a chance to survive. And in doing so, he had given the universe a lesson in selflessness and courage. Zira knew that her people would never understand such a sacrifice. The idea of giving one's life for the greater good, without any guarantee of reward, was foreign to them. They fought to protect their own interests, to preserve their power, but they did not understand the kind of sacrifice that Elias and his crew had made. That was why humanity had triumphed when all seemed lost. It wasn't just because they had technology or weapons. It was because they were willing to fight for what they believed in, no matter the cost. As Zira sat there, lost in her thoughts, she felt a new sense of respect for the humans. She had spent so much time looking down on them, thinking they were insignificant in the grand scheme of things. But now she saw them in a completely different light. They had defeated an alien fleet far superior to their own, not with better technology, but with a strength that came from within. They had fought not for themselves, but for each other and for the future of their species. Zira felt a sense of awe wash over her. She had never known a species capable of such unity and courage. The human spirit was something she had never understood until now. It wasn't about physical strength or advanced weaponry. It was about the strength to stand up for what was right, to fight for the greater good, even when the odds were stacked against you. And that, Zira realized, was the true power of humanity. With newfound clarity, Zira made a decision. She couldn't keep this revelation to herself. The story of Elias and his crew, of their sacrifice and their courage, needed to be told. She couldn't let her people remain ignorant of the strength of humanity. They needed to know what humans were capable of, what they had already accomplished against impossible odds. Zira had once seen her people as superior, but now she saw them as just another species, flawed in their own way. It was time to share the story of humanity's victory with them. Zira walked to the door of her dormitory, her heart full of purpose. She wasn't just going to tell their people about the humans' victory. She was going to tell them about the lesson that victory had taught her. She had come to Earth expecting to learn about humanity's failures, but instead, she had learned about their strength, their courage, and their ability to rise above their limitations. That was the real lesson she wanted to share, the lesson of the human spirit.